Live. So am I. I'm just hanging out listening to music. I'm doing I'm doing couch things. Matter of fact, let me get my game going here. I'm playing The Sims. This is what I do. I don't really actually play. I kind of just set it up, let my family's family. When I start seeing a vibe, I make them friends. What I do, I watch the news. Like I watch video clips. I don't know if you guys remember current. Like I feel like early 2000s maybe, middle 2000s, not quite 2010. I know I was just having baby kids, so that was like maybe 2006, 2010, and there was this channel, Current, and they'd show pods, and basically what pods were is it was like an automated, like, YouTube. "Hi, we're in Thailand. We're gonna look at this bag maker. Beep, 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 bag maker. Hi, we're in Indonesia, and here we are in this alley of poverty. Look at this, it's sad." And so you'd watch, a lot of people. I mean, man, I mean, you think about that, that's almost a lifetime of journalism. But I mean, even then, as people were starting to come up into their, journalism roots, they were getting on and they were getting caught into, like, BuzzFeed and Politico or whatever, media things there were at that time, websites, and they made names for themselves, they moved on. Actually, I feel like there was a Asian journalist, a couple of them that got, like, detained, and it made national news, then they ended up getting an actual job on a real major publication. Um, anyway, where am I jumping on? Because, man, it's 5 o'clock, almost 6 on the East Coast, 3 miles from Solomon Northup's house in Hudson Falls, New York. That's where I live. Lots of trees. We have cow farms, dairy farms. If you've ever eaten Cabot cheese, we got farms around there, that kinda stuff. So why am I on? 'Cause ain't no one else on and I'm bored. I figured we could talk. I woke up at, like, 2. I'm kinda getting into our stuff. I'm filling in all the stuff that I watched about Lev and Ellie and the I Hit people. I've gotten away from watching, like, Adam Mockler, who was my dude, Keith Edwards, who was my dude. I got away from watching them. They're just aggregators. They just have a larger platform than me, you know what I'm saying? That's actually why I started doing this. I started calling myself Nick G, a dude on the couch, because I'm the dude on the couch. Why do I know these things? Because and that's why I started in with going about current. That's how I watch my news. I watch my news like current TV was produced, except for I'm the producer and I'm looking at the media that I want. So that way I can check out DJ Tinzo in Brooklyn and JoJo. And that's how I can you know, listen to like First Post where by the way, India hates Donald Trump. First Post news will be like, and this is why this is so confusing because Donald Trump said this thing and this is what we are actually seeing. And I'm like, yeah, somebody else sees it. It's not just me because it doesn't need to just be me. I spent a lot of time this morning watching people who, were processing, like the Bad Bunny joint. I watch a lot of black media. A lot of the black media that I watch utilizes the word Sankofa. So that's like Greg Carr, that's the Reed Daniel Favors, that's Karen Hunter, Sankofa Squad. Yeah, I feel like that's about it. Dr. Stacey Patton. I don't watch a pod, I read her work, but I know they name her specifically, and Sankofa. All of this is history because us white folks with European heritage and OMG World War II, am I right? And we did all that stuff with the Nazi Germans and stuff like that. And the young 18, 19, 20-year-old white people from America and from Europe, they went over and they saw this terrible scene, these people in just unhuman treatment. And come on, the people above them, they knew what was going on. They had bought the gases from America Properties, they have bought the machineries and stuff like that. We were much like how we're a global resource now, we were still a global resource then. So a lot of the intelligence, intellect, and the creation of such, we were in on that. I mean, it kind of freaked out the normal people. I'm a dude on the couch. I watch news the same that we all watch news. I started with, like CNN and then MSNBC and all that other stuff. And I went to all that stuff and I watched it and I learned from them. And then when I started learning new sources, I was let down by them. I was like, this is stank. So I'd watch something else. And then the people who would make more sense would drift away. I remember when I first got out of the Marine Corps, it was like 2000. Internet was still new. I was curious. There was the election. The only reason I caught on to it because George W. Bush stuck out, and I'm watching like Republican candidates at the time, and like I remember Alan Keyes was talking. I was like, this guy's an idiot. What's he saying? This is bullshit. And then that was before I'd caught on to the doublespeak of political conversation, and it was kind of neat because I caught on to a character. I started recognizing buzzwords. And once you start recognizing buzzwords, you start recognizing a trend. You start seeing maybe this isn't so good. So, I started looking for other stuff. I want truth. If I personally know different than what this man is saying, how can I find out more? Very early on in the internet. I don't I feel like I was still using like Excite Chat, and Excite for my search bars and all that jazz. And that was then. And then I started getting the right wing stuff, Truth Laid Bare. Uh, I'm trying to think. Anyway, there was a whole pajamas media. That's what was coming to me. And I wasn't getting truth. I was getting things that I personally knew better. The way that my brain interprets the difference between what is good media and what is not good media is if it reads like a cracked magazine article. Odds are pretty good. There's not a lot of facts to it. Look for the cool pictures of spittle. I've always been entertained by the drawings of spittle coming out of cracked and Mad magazine characters' mouths. I thought it was funny. But if it reads like cracked magazine, it's probably not good journalism. So here's 2026. We're running into something funky. I'm watching I'm a dude on the couch. You know what I'm saying? I make zero money. I'm a laborer. I have a lot of time to sit and watch these videos and play video games and make sure that my Sims don't die because that's essentially all I do when I'm playing. Um, and so as I'm processing through the news, I see the Bulwark, I see Crooked, I see and when I say crooked, I specifically mean I do not like Jon Favreau. I think he's a butt chump. I don't even know how to describe my distaste for this guy, but I see him. I see Chris Hayes. I see Ezra Klein in kind of the same vein, like in this, you know what? I'll go bigger. I see James Carville in that same way. I see Tim Miller in that same way, where they're just like in this intellectual dialogue that doesn't have tangible rules on the ground. It's just in this intangible conversation. We're talking about the things. Same thing with Sarah Longwell now that I think about it. When I'm watching Bulwark Product, they're like, yeah, Democrats need to do this. Democrats need to do this. And she's a former Republican. What does she know about being a quote unquote Democrat? And I can tell you, because from watching them, when I'm watching Crooked, when I'm watching Bulwark, it's like both publications watch the media product of CNN, MSNBC that we grew up on generationally. And, they watch that as if it's the real thing. When I'm watching my morning stuff, like what is it, 6 o'clock right now? I think like iHip's on at 7. I don't know. It used to be. It isn't that lately. But anyway, Mayday Network, you know what I mean? I'll watch that when that comes on. And, I think that's on at 8. Anyway, I'll watch that too. I have plenty of beef with Julie Roginski and Michelle Kenny, but it's not like personal beef. It's just where we get our core information from. Michelle will look up and she'll be like, yes, I mean, everybody knows the Bulwark. I was watching the Bulwark, and they watch video clips like I watch video clips. What? You are connected people. You have access to legacy, corporate intellectuals. And here I am, a dude on the couch. Why do I know more than you? Why do I know a better source? When I hear Julie Roginski say that she leans more towards Chuck Schumer than she does AOC, what does my first thing think? Chuck Schumer represents Israel. Israel is AIPAC. That's how they influence American government. There are many other acronyms. APAC is the boogeyman, so I'll let that boogie do the dancing. Israel, um, since I want to say like the 70s, if I my brain isn't real. I'm an AI. But anyway, in the 70s, um, Russia started making movements, and this is what I'm starting to understand. Don't quote me to anything. I'm not citing anything. This is what I'm starting to understand. This, monkey right here. As I understand it, Maxwell, Jelane's dad, I'm drawing a blank on his name, Robert? Anyway, his job was to bring Russian money and Russian people, former USSR, into Israel. They was bringing that influence into Israel. That was his Mossad role, as I'm starting to understand it. Ghislaine Maxwell was under his tutelage. And now that I'm saying that, that's a lot like Ivanka to Donald in that sense, that Ivanka is now the management of Jared Kushner, who's the face of the operation. Okay, I'm starting to get wild. So back to what I'm saying. Robert Maxwell, that's his name. Robert Maxwell, his job was to get Russians into Israel. Ghislaine Maxwell, her job was to get Russian money brought into, I might be saying that the other way. Anyway, the two Maxwells were bringing money and people into Israel. I saw a thing that was showing the faces of like the past however many Israel leaders and stuff like that. Hey, listen, I'm not Shane Durack. I'm just kind of processing out loud because at this time in the morning I got no one else to talk to. But anyway, um, I was looking at like the last like 10 leaders of Israel, and they all come from former USSR nations, lineage. You know what I'm saying? That's where they're coming from. So I'm coming back to Julie Roginski and her support for Chuck Schumer because she leans more towards Chuck Schumer than AOC. She was recently backing a candidate in New York, and that's why this conversation came up. So as she's saying that, I'm thinking about it. If she's backing Chuck Schumer more than AOC, Chuck Schumer is APAC funded, but APAC is very Russian mob connected. Like it's bigger. When we say Russia, we aren't talking Russia. We're talking, yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's a bigger network in the sense that, like, as I understand it, let me put my fingers away. As I understand it, the Italian mob was running New York. And then there was a movement of the Russian mob in, and the Russian mob started kind of pushing out the Italian mob. I don't get involved. I listen to Lev Parnas. That's just where I'm starting to put things together. I grew up with Italian people. As far as I grew up knowing, Italian people were the absolute beginning and end of everything. Every time I saw a mob movie, I was like, "Hey, paisan," because I was raised in that mindset of Italian. I grew up with my Italian grandmother. Her name, well, she's my grandmother Pauline, but on her birth certificate was Paulina. They come from the Calabria area of Italy. Then that's where they grew up. Like I could see the railroad in Whitehall, New York, like across the street. I could see it. It's in front of a restaurant called the Rail Yard now, but I could see it. So I mean, Whitehall, New York has absolute immigration uh, uh, heritage. As a matter of fact, now that I think about it, if you flush a toilet, that's what Whitehall, New York looks like currently. If they wanted to market, a good uh, at least tourism, you know what I'm saying? They designate historical immigration areas in their small little city. Whitehall is immense, but like in town is smaller. If they were just to put those, like, this is where the French people were, this is where the Italian people were. If they did that, I grew up in the Italian people place. But if they did that, um they could draw new markets into there, new people to see it. They have terrible pipes. I mean, the biggest thing that Whitehall, New York has to offer is they have an annual Bigfoot weekend, because there was one police officer who was seen on History Channel, Bigfoot shows and stuff like that. His name was Gordon. Last name is Gordon. Anyway, Police Chief Gordon. He saw Bigfoot. So now we have a celebration every year because Bigfoots are everywhere because this one man saw it. Hey, actually, now that I'm talking about Whitehall, I am totally blasting off what I was talking about. Now that I'm talking about Whitehall, things that I'm finding out about Whitehall that are blowing my mind. The Champlain Canal, and Lake Champlain is right there in Whitehall. Whitehall is the birthplace of the US Navy. There are other places that claim it. Cool story, bro. But, Benedict Arnold built the, the United States Navy from the trees around Whitehall, New York, and Lake Champlain, and that's where America's first Navy boats came from Whitehall, New York. That's why it's the birthplace of the US Navy. Yeah, I get a kick out of that. When I think Benedict Arnold, in my brain canon, I see Peter Brady, who's going on, and I don't see like the whole performance of him learning who Benedict Arnold is. I just see them putting his old ass, dusty ass coat on his body, and poof, and then he just like dies or whatever in the play. But yeah, in my head, Benedict Arnold will always be Peter Brady. So I guess the bigger, I don't know, I came onto a lot of stuff. I think my flywheel spins. Um, I was thinking about like, more along the lines of like the bulwark. They're always talking to Democrats, it's crooked. They're always talking to Democrats. When people are talking about independence, they immediately go to this gray third choice of party. And I'm an independent. I don't register as an independent. I don't register. I don't even register as a cup of coffee. I don't register as anything than this one dude, Nick G, this dude on the couch, this couch right here. That's it. That's it. I listen to the music I listen to. I play the games that I play. I watch the things that I have. I have the life experience that brought me to my conclusions. There ain't no part that represents that. Shit. I live in a house full of people. We don't, not a goddamn one of us represents the same things. You know what I'm saying? I go to work. I work with people. Two things bring people together: common goals, common enemies. We're at work. You aren't going to find two people with the same set of priorities, regardless of how it's written down. You know what I'm saying? So, how is it that we have just these two machine corporations, these guys, and everybody else just kind of fills into this? Here you go, third brand? No, we aren't Coke and Pepsi. We aren't cola and cola. We aren't cola and like citrus drink. It's not even like that. It's coming back, like, look, coming back into all of us, e pluribus unum. What is e pluribus unum, man? Many, but one. I'm a Star Trek fanatic, and they talk about the Great Link in Deep Space Nine. One drop is the ocean. The ocean is one drop. But each one of them joints is still themselves going out collecting experience, bringing it back to the collective. Hey, I talked about black media, didn't I? I mentioned the word Sankofa. That's what Sankofa is. You think about what we did in American culture. In American culture, we developed the radio, we developed movies, we developed TV. So in doing that, we had this one view. You know what I'm saying? I could talk with my grandparents about, the Three Stooges. I mean, it was a vaudeville act that was brought to the movies, and it was started some of the first stuff that would be put on TV and reruns. So, we'd watch it. I think about when I was a kid, and I was watching cartoons, lots of Looney Tunes, lots of Tom and Jerry, that kind of stuff. By the way, we were listening to some pretty fly jazz at that time, and we didn't know it because the credits weren't everywhere. But when I was watching those cartoons, my grandfather, and at the time, he was like 50, laughing his ass off with me as a kid. But why was he laughing his ass off? Because he was still seeing some of that shit for the first time himself. A lot of that humor was, you know, period humor. And it's neat to think about that stuff. Here we are in 2026, and we binge watch, shows, series. I have trouble watching stuff from the 90s. I can't watch Martin. I cannot watch the show Martin. Martin created my culture as a teenager. But when I watch it as an adult, I want to diagnose toxic behaviors. I want to diagnose chemical imbalances. I wanna diagnose, you know what I mean, conditions because we have that greater knowledge now where it's more a common knowledge, where before somebody was touched, they were touched, you know what I mean? And now in 2026, I see neurodivergence the way that I can point to a deer and say, "That's not a cow." I know it's not a cow because it's a deer, and that's the way I see neurodivergence when I'm interacting with somebody. When I'm watching TV now, I used to, well, the character that first caught me as a weirdo was, Winnie what's his name from New Girl? They call him Winnie the Bish. Anyway, I call every weirdo in the show the Winnie the Bish. That's always the fourth wall breaker kinda guy, and, I'm always looking for those people. Those are the neurodivergents, you know what I'm saying? Stephanie Tanner in the beginning of Full House, I feel like she was not just smart, she was neurodivergent, she was on everything. Dewey from Malcolm in the Middle, very neurodivergent, you know what I mean? And, he's neurodivergent on his own space. Um, but I dig all that stuff, you know? I dig watching that kinda stuff, knowing what we know now. So I'm coming back to Democrats. I'm coming back to how can you pick a party? There is no party. It's like being shuffled into it. So when I'm watching Crooked Media, when I'm watching The Bulwark, and I'm watching MS Now, and I'm watching CNN, and I'm watching them do their things, they aren't having honest conversations, but they're watching each other. When I'm watching clips from Keith Edwards, he's watching MSNBC clips. When I'm watching who are the people? I don't know, Jack Coachanella. Anyway, when I'm watching him, same thing. He's watching clips from MSNBC, MS Now, my bad, CNN. You know, I mean, you got Juliet Jeske, who's turned watching Fox News into her niche, and I appreciate that. But that's not news anymore. I'm watching, bro, Substack. Substack is citizen journalism. Substack is such citizen journalism. Now look at me again. I love it. Gossip. If you go back in the history of humanity, if you go back into, you know, tribes, if you go look at a freaking litter of canines, you know what I'm saying? They're communicating, they're gossiping. You know what I'm saying? Gossip is the key to everything. Now I'm saying Sankofa again. Sankofa means go back and get it. It's like a bird looking back. But when it's looking back, it's carrying an egg because the egg is the future. And make sure I'm plugged in. When we talk to each other, me, Nick G, I'm going to bring my experience, and my experience doesn't mean it's all collected in a bucket and here let's integrate it. I don't know when it's going to come up. I don't remember what I remember until it comes out of my mouth. I always like to say that I don't memorize. I I just remember. I recognize where things connect. You know what I'm saying? And like I say right now, we keep talking Nazi Germany, it's the '30s because it's white people, it's Europeans. We went in there, we saw these things, they were killing people. Hey, cool story, bro, with our short minds that we have here in America. I'm talking to us white people, the ones that went to public school, the ones who didn't know about our history until it was we cracked open a book and we had picture of penises on people's faces and shit like that because that was funny. But at the same time, we're reading these books and we're getting a blurb. George Washington cut down a cherry tree. He could not tell a lie. You know what I mean? And yeah, cool. No, like, no, like somebody made that shit up and somebody repeated it and they kept doing it. It's like watching people do impressions of William Shatner. They aren't doing the actual William Shatner impression. They're doing the impression of each other. And it breaks my head. But that's what history is. No, I'm coming back to Sankofa. Now, if you were reading books like Black AF History by Michael Harriot, if you're reading, I'll even go with like Allow Me to Retort by Elie Mystal, A Black Guy's Guide to the U.S. Constitution. Um, Mind blowing. I mean, when he breaks down the science of how stuff was created, um, when I'm listening to Professor Greg Carr, it was actually listening to narrative, Knarritive. So that's Dr. Karen Hunter, that's, Dr. Greg Carr, and pretty much Karen Hunter just kinda sets him up and then steps back and leaves this amazing man in front of this bookcase, and he'll be talking about historical stuff. He'll be talking about historical stuff he was present for. He'll be talking about then you see him reach back, not even look, reach back, pull out a book, reach into his bag and pull out a book and show up an author, and when you listen to these people speak, when you listen to people who have knowledge of civil rights, who have knowledge of abolition, when you have knowledge of, um, not white people culture, it's America looks different. If you watch the Bad Bunny joint on Sunday and didn't see America, then you don't know. You've never been. You've never been. You watched an interactive TV show where Beaver Cleaver world, you know what I'm saying, existed, where the church was the center of the community, where everybody had their social gatherings, where, like where Mr. Wilson of Dennis the Menace would take his picture, for this one where he'd have his head off. I can't make a bad face the way he did. He must have practiced that in the mirror for a while. But, that it didn't exist. It didn't exist. You were a lot closer to getting Fred Sanford than you were to Beaver Cleaver, you know what I'm saying? Than you were to Henry Mitchell, than you were to, the black and white world we lived in. I mean, even, um, every step of our produced TV was taking us away from the Sankofa of our lives. It was taking us away from the culture. It was teaching us that there's somebody for everybody, that everybody gets their one person, their one true love, and they get to have and raise the children that they want, and have their dream home and their dream job and retire. But it was all a gaslight. It was all an op. Like it just wasn't. If you believe in a world without people of color, you know what I'm saying? If you believe you're a heritage American, where'd you come from? Where's your heritage? I know my heritage. Because right now, while people are talking about Nazi Germany, we're in Jim Crow. 1877, we're in Jim Crow, where freedmen and women are no longer freedmen and women. Here's our laws. Here's your freedom. Cool. No, no. The Confederates in the White House are actually using, if the Confederacy had won, I mean, we're cracking open the Epstein joint. And the more that we're doing that, we're slave trading. But we stopped slave trading black people, and we started using white, blonde, blue-eyed girls. You know what I'm saying? And it's pretty freaking wild. So why would somebody choose to be a Democrat or a Republican in this world, 2026, where now we're speaking to each other? I'm speaking to people in other places. When I look on my, where I'm reaching people on my Substack, I mean, that's just the people that subscribe to this. We're a social media thing. People are writers. We're all supportive, new media. That's one thing. But when I'm touching people, I'm touching people all over. You know what I mean? And that's in this handful of folks. I mean, on Facebook, for example, it's like mostly New York. I got a couple people, overseas. I got a couple people, you know what I mean, in different states. But in a small pool, I've got the United States covered. And that's pretty freaking amazing. That means that while I'm in upstate New York and I'm talking about trees and farms, I'm talking to people in the deserts who don't see those trees and farms. You know what I'm saying? Who see completely different critters running around their yards in the middle of the night, in the early morning. I'm seeing bunnies. Some people are seeing armadillos, and that's pretty rad too. But that's the reach. We aren't the same. To think the United States is the United States like this house is the house, it's not even that. Shit, now that I'm saying that, this house isn't even this house. This living room is my space right now. That room right there is my girlfriend's existing, that's where most of her crap is, that's where when she needs to escape from me, that's where she goes. Right above me is one of the daughters. She's up there minding her business. That's her own little world. I don't even go in there. Another one over there. I don't even go in there. As a matter of fact, no nicks allowed. I don't go because it's not my space. I have nothing in there. I have no needs in there. I have no anything. It's a cute little sign. As a matter of fact, one day when it was put on when I very first moved into this house 6 years ago, I thought it was cute. I even took the little kid scratch and I neatened up the little things. I shaded a little, dewed a little, boop, put it right back on the door. I don't need to be in there. And that's just this house. That's just this house. What about my neighbor? You know what I'm saying? How can I talk about 10 freaking people and each of us are different in the same regional and we're talking about the United States. You know what I'm saying? I mean, how many? I'm talking 10. People I work with are diversity. We can't get along. We don't get along. If we didn't have the same shit to do and the same people to not like, we wouldn't get along at all. You know what I'm saying? But here we're Democrats. We're Republicans. Have I got another one? Yeah, I'm an independent. Is that it? Is that America? Where we only know about Nazi Germany and the slaves? I don't know. Anyway, I'm getting spinny. I can hear the kids are starting to wake up and everybody's starting to do their thing, so I'm gonna drop out. I don't even know what to call this. I don't even know if I even had a topic. I don't even know if I have a theme. My mouth open, words came out. Yeah. And that's life of Nick G, a dude on the couch who can't understand why Sarah Longwell doesn't understand that Epstein's issue. I mean, the Trump files, the Epstein issue, the Ghislaine Maxwell, OMG, that journal that describes Mar-a-Lago as a baby farm. Old people are playing golf out front, and it's a baby farm out back. Blows my mind. But Sarah Longwell wants to really tell you how great Josh Shapiro is. And the Midas Touch Boys want to really tell you how great Gavin Newsom is. And Crooked Media wants to, what the fuck? Like, are they like a comedy act now? I don't, like nothing without Brian. If they replaced Jon Favreau with Brian Tyler Cohen, they'd maybe not be a comedy show. But it's a fucking comedy show with themes that have political things. Why am I a dude on the couch? Why am I a dude on the couch listening to the Mayday Network? And I'm listening to Julie Roginski and Michelle Kenny talk about one degree of association to greatness, name brand people, millionaires. And I know more than that on any given topic because they watch Bulwark, MS Now, CNN, Crooked, their friends. I'm watching Greg Carr. I'm watching Karen Hunter. I'm watching Allison Gill. I'm watching Wajahat Ali. I'm watching, who else am I watching? Larry Daniel Favors. Dear freaking God. If you guys watch one person that I've talked about today, Larry Daniel Favors. Like when I talk about the past, the present, and the future, Karen Hunter and Greg Carr handed it off to Larry Daniel Favors, who is the present and future. Whereas Greg Carr and Karen Hunter are the past and the present. Larry Daniel Favors says it so plainly that you're embarrassed. I'm smart. She makes me feel uneducated. And that's good because that's what Sankofa is about. The community. We listen to a community. It is a community. That's what Substack is. Substack's a community. Every time I geek out, I nerd when I pop on like Lev and He greets people by name. When I log on in Shane Iraq, he greets me by name. He thanks me for being present in his conversation that draws me in. But I'm not even talking about those people. I'm talking about these people. I just pointed all y'all in the chat. Greetings. I'm even type it. Greetings. Yep, spelled it right and everything. I geek out about it, people in the chat. People that aren't even in my chat, I geek out about. We interact, we talk. Matter of fact, we spend so much time sometimes talking in the chats, we don't even listen to what's happening in WADS, Lev, Ellie, Zev. You know what I'm saying? Because we're a community. E pluribus unum. Hey, I'm trying to get out of here because, like I said, I can hear people coming in, and once people start coming in, they change my weather pattern, my dynamic. I like having people. I like talking to people. I like interacting with people. It steals my energy. Like after I get done interacting with people, I come home and I'll fall on the couch like a pile of laundry because I gave so much out of it. But when I'm here in my own space, I don't really worry about it. 1 second. I got lost. I had to check my notes. The people in the community of Substack, we talk to each other, we share with each other, we communicate with each other. There ain't nobody in here who's getting big money from somebody else to influence. When I interact with people on Facebook, it's usually like my local friends, and you have no proof. Look, man, I have proof. It's right here. Your sources are stupid. You know what I'm saying? Cool. On this, we have the same sources, which turns out is a lot of OG sources because the group that are here, we've given up on the news, on the media. When I say media, I mean the Atlantic. I mean, you know what I'm saying? The NBCs, the newspapers. If it can be bought, it's no good. Money isn't real. I tell that to people at work. We all work for the same amount of money because, it's like a base pay. You tier up and base pay. But you don't work for the same amount of respect. You need to work as if your respect is a tangible resource that you're going to put in your pocket. I feel like I do that. Actually, hang tight. I make work shirts. Not for work, but I make work shirts so people know who I am. Because we don't use last names at work, so everybody's a whatever. As a matter of fact, when I see other Nicks, I greet them with how many other Nicks I have in my view because five Nicks together opens a dark portal. So I got my shirt Nick G. And I want people to know who Nick G is. So when I pop in and I'm helping them, not that dude, I look like everybody else around here. I'm white, brown eyes, brown hair, getting a little grays in the beard, got a beaky European nose. You know what I'm saying? I can actually tell you these are my Italian grandparents' ears, Grandpa Tony. So those specifically come from Italy. Matter of fact, it's the nose too. I got his nose too. So I can tell you about that. I can tell you about the people, but at the same time, I'm getting lost. I want people to know who they're talking to. I want people to know that I'm the guy because, like I said, we all make the same money when we leave the building. Inside the building, our respect has an equity. You know what I'm saying? I go from people. I'm 48. I'll be 49 this year in October. I have um 30 years of experience in logistics. I did logistics in the Marine Corps. I was enlisted supply. I worked at UPS. I've done Uber. I've done all that stuff, logistics. How do I suggest logistics in a time frame? You look at when you need it done and you move it back. How much time? How much time? How much effort? How much effort? How much space? How much space? And then that brings you to where you are because when you have your finished product, you can deconstruct it and what it takes to get there. I'm just a dude on a couch. I'm a laborer. I can stand in my warehouse and I can teach the body. I can teach the circulatory system. I can teach the government. I can teach, I can teach equity. I can teach logistics, which is pretty much a given. I can teach all of it from a warehouse because everything is everything. When I'm there, when I'm home, I have 4 or 5 days. Wait, I have 4 days because I work a 3-day work week. I have 4 days. All I do is I research, I research, I research, I read, I take in concepts, I listen to conversations, and then I got 3 days where I can do none of that. So all I do is digest and process. And when I take in all the things that I digest and process, at the end of it, it it comes together where I got it. Wait a second, there's a Pokemon. I don't remember its name, but there's a Pokemon, as a matter of fact, when it turns into a butterfly, the butterflies are so globally diverse depending on your region. That's actually the big trend in trying to collect all of specifically that butterfly. But what it does is when it's a pupa, you know what I mean, and it goes to be in a cocoon, it pulls from the environment. So you have like the industrial ones have pink, like a pink little outfit on them because they grab like the stuffing in the walls. The other ones have green because they grab the leaves in theirs. It's all depending on locale. Kind of cool thing about Pokemon, even though I stopped being interested in it very recently. Too much. They put too much in it. It's not the same. Um, anyway, I've been trying to get out of here for 10 minutes. I still hear the kids coming up and shuffling. I'm Nick G. I'm a dude on the couch. My question is, if I'm a dude on the couch and I'm just scrolling through a timeline and I'm just curating truth versus not truth, how come I know more than people who are paid to tell me what I need to know? You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I'm a dip out. If you're gonna believe in something, why not believe in me?